Specifically, 33% of Gen Z compared to 28% of all demographics have tried a new brand because of its creative marketing. So, or creative approach. Again, we don't really know what that looks like, but creativity plays here.
Yeah. Make it in
Apparently.
there you go. Make it interesting.
Yep. Right.
And if they're bored with you're bored with your competitor, they'll come to you. We are launching loyalty personas today. This is where people can take a quiz, anybody, you, me, but any consumer. So I've already given it to my mother, my child, and one of our folks has given it to her mom, and they posted it on Facebook just as we were getting ready for this. Yeah, all the different personas. We have the points geek. So the person that's always looking for points and how do I get
The full-on
more
points nerd.
and
Right.
right. Where do I get the value the most? We did a gamer. So I think sometimes people think of like points gamers. This gamer is more, I really like the interactivity of a program. I like to get challenges. I like to yeah, enjoy the game of it. We have a socialite, so the VIP status person. Always, I want status, I want easy or early access, I want to meet designers, that type of thing. We have the shopaholic, so that's the person that's shopping around trying to get the best deal. We have the lazy loyalist, so that's the one who I don't know joins a restaurant program and you just keep going back to the same restaurant because you know you're eventually going to get a free meal. And we have the hero and really loves your brand, is committed to your brand, likes a good deal, but really wants to align with your values or know that the brand aligns with their values and has that emotional connection. And above all, that's what's most important. And so, yeah, we're hopefully it's something fun that will go a little viral for us. But we also see it as a way to support our clients. So if somebody has a program and they give the survey out to their members and the members come back and say they're all the socialite and they all want VIP status. Well, and if the program doesn't offer VIP status, maybe you should do more of that if
Right.
everybody comes
There's a little
back as we
something.
yeah, yeah. So it's we'll see how that goes.
That's really, really interesting. I mean, I like the idea of putting it out there just in public. This is kind of, user-generated research, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's where the gold is, rather than
Yeah.
the formalized, really expensive, consultative driven, a couple $100,000 later. Not saying that's bad, by the way, but you just never know what you'll find.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're collecting a little bit of demographic information, just um, ages, gender, location, so that we'll have some of that so we can slice and dice a bit as we continue to do it. But yeah, we see it as something that can be out there for a long time, and where again, any brand can pick it up and take the survey and see what their members are, how they're behaving. So it'll be really fun to see.
Yeah, I mean, if we can help put it out, you're welcome to use our channels too, because it'd be fun,
Send it over for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Shoot me an email. So your colleagues over at Emarsys, who set this conversation up like, I don't know, 2 months ago or something, because we were trying to get this together,
Yeah.
had just released the customer loyalty index for 24.
Yeah, their loyalty study.
Yeah,
It's some really good stuff in it.
it's really good stuff. I was able to talk to them. I think I've talked to Emarsys the past couple of years just as they released it.
Mhm.
And it's first of all, it's just if you're a loyalty geek, customer engagement geek on any level, this is it. Let's dive in deep here and just wrestle with this stuff. So if you're prepared to do a little wrestling, uh,
Sure.
so yeah, I think for me, let's just start like really, really high level, because a lot of the report focuses on how different Gen Z is from past generations, prior generations, and how they view brand loyalty and what you can do with that. And like, first of all, that's universal. Every single brand out there is going like, what do I do? I've spent decades building, my brand, and Gen Z could care less. So, or
Yeah.
care in diminishing amounts. So, high level stats here, right off of your report. Um, Almost half of United States Gen Zers, 43%, and 41% of millennials have abandoned a brand they were once loyal to because they grew bored of them, which is like the worst thing you can say, I think. To admit that you're just boring
Yeah.
is pretty condemning, you know? That's damning stuff.
It is, and it's one of those that I wish we could double click into to really understand. I think maybe to your point, what bored means. Is it the product set that's boring? Like they're not being innovative enough to keep these people interested. They buy one thing and then there's nothing else there. It's blah. Or is it the fact that their marketing is boring? One of the other stats in there is a lot about influencers and how influencers are really having an impact on these groups? Is it that the influence they don't have the right influencers either, so that doesn't seem interesting to them?
Right.
I think there's a lot that you could unpack in just that. You could do a whole research on just that one
Well,
piece.
I mean, I'm thinking about, I was talking to the head of research for Footlocker recently, and
Mhm.
Footlocker's core demo are Gen Zs right now. You know,
Yeah,
that's the people who are buying their products. So they need to understand these people. And it's an overstatement to say they were panicking, but what they were saying is like, look, Gen Z has all these criteria for brand loyalty. You got to meet my values. You got to be cool. You got to speak my language. You got to be where I am and all that stuff. And yet, if they see something cooler or better deal, like especially a better value, they're gone. Like all that stuff you just worked on to meet their needs, it doesn't matter. They're a very flighty generation, apparently. So,
yeah, I think they are. I think another stat in there though also talked about how they like quality. So maybe there's something to that too. Being able to demonstrate more quality to them could be interesting as well. Um,
yeah,
in variety.
the other side of value there, right? And I think in the Foot Locker conversation, they're really just talking about price per se. So, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Well, next phone call will be to connect with your people over at Emarsys and see if we can get some more
Go
granularity,
deeper.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, gamification might be an interesting thing too. And we certainly are hearing so much more about gamification. Obviously, it was pretty hot about 10 years ago and it kind of went away and now it's coming back and not necessarily the spin and win kind of things, but the challenges.
Hmm.
And maybe there's something to that with this group of keeping it more interesting. So if they have to do four things to get something else, would that keep them more interested? So it actually having a loyalty program, does that help stem the boredom?
Yeah. Well, that could work. That could really be interesting to see. Um, and just like thinking about gamification and the gaming world that so much of Gen Z is a part of. I think I saw somewhere that it's like 70 to 80% of Gen Z are active gamers. Like
Mhm.
that's a huge statistic. It's a world out there that's like, okay, it exists. I'll never get there. But seen a couple of really interesting loyalty plays, gamification plays within the gaming world, because you're already in this competitive environment. So they kind of
Yeah,
layered in, you know, just as you're saying, ring three bells and you get an extra whatever power pack or something like that. I'm laughing,
yeah,
but that's dead serious stuff to that generation. Like,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, well, I was listening to a podcast with the founder of Duolingo, and he said one of the things that they did was they put in streaks. So, how long have you been? I don't know if you know about Duolingo, but
Mhm.
it's learning a language, and so they made it really easy for you to engage. So, lessons are a few minutes long, and so if you could just do a few minutes every day, you'll ultimately get there. So not only did they shorten the sessions, but then they added streaks to keep you coming back every day for at least a little bit of time. And just watching that streak number was enough to just create so much more engagement. So
Really?
gamification doesn't have to be this like huge strategy necessarily with all these multifaceted aspects. It can be something pretty simple that keeps people hooked.
Well, just from the study, the customer loyalty index here, apparently it works. I mean, there's backup here that says that that's pretty effective. Again, I'm just going to read. Specifically, 33% of Gen Z compared to 28% of all demographics have tried a new brand because of its creative marketing. So, or creative approach. Again, we don't really know what that looks like, but creativity plays here,
Yeah. Make it
apparently.
in there you go. Make it interesting.
Yep, right.
And if they're bored with you're bored with your competitor, they'll come to you.
So, I hate cherry picking this stuff because it's the context that really matters here. But listen, I'm going to cherry pick. So,
Sure.
um, loyalty deepens across generations is the headline, and then there's no other context here, but generationally, 74% of boomers are loyal to a brand. Pretty big statement, not a huge surprise. And that's kind of in diminishing numbers. Gen X is 70% loyal to a brand, millennials 68, Gen Z is 64, and I've seen numbers that are actually far lower than that for Gen Z. I mean, it's kind of surprising to me that they would hold that. I guess it kind of just depends on how the question was phrased too.
Mhm.
Um, but you can see that like generationally, at some point, whatever the next generation is going to be called, brand marketers are going to be in some deep poo. I'll edit that. You know,
You could say that.
this is a family show here, so no.
Okay.
Um, anyway,
Well,
go ahead.
it's interesting. Does I don't remember this from the reporting because I looked at a lot of the raw data from this versus looking at it from previous years. Does it talk about how that's changed over the last few years? Has it? Or have younger people just always, just by the nature of maybe age, wanted to try new things so they don't tend to stay as loyal?
I mean, there's no other qualitative data here. I'd be really interested to find out though. But I mean, just anecdotally, I'm old. I have been loyal to certain brands along the way because that's just what we did. I
Mhm.
like this brand because it speaks to me and makes me cooler by association. Um, but I just think that like again, anecdotally, like younger generations don't think that way. Even my kids are like, yeah, they have some brand affinity, but it's nothing like, what in my generation brands to a certain extent defined who you were.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I feel like there's so many more options too. Even at looking at my own behavior, I'm old. I'm trying to think of what am I
Not
loyal to? I mean,
really, but anyway, we can dispute that.
there's like toothpaste. Okay, well, that's become habitual. So it's the same thing. I just don't change because it just
Because
what
why?
I pull off the shelf, right? But when it comes to apparel and things like that, I feel like there's so many new brands that ones I loved 2 years ago aren't necessarily the same brand I'm in love with this, now. And I don't know if the access to information and how many more are out there make it such that we just don't stay loyal.
A groundswell starts small, quietly building into something powerful, unstoppable. That's also how market momentum works. If you're launching a startup, introducing a new product, rebranding, or rolling out a new service or initiative, it's not enough to simply show up. You need to build momentum strategically. Specializing in go-to-market strategy, Groundswell works with organizations at every stage, creating custom plans that help products and brands break through the noise and grow, ensuring a launch that doesn't just happen, it sticks. From understanding your target audience to perfecting your positioning, Groundswell's approach ensures you're not just catching the market's attention, but keeping it. With expert guidance, your product moves from launch day to long-term success, turning that initial wave of excitement into sustained growth. If you're ready to take your product, service, or brand to market, it might be time to think about a groundswell strategy. Visit groundswell.cc to learn more.
If we don't talk about AI, I'll get fired. So,
Okay.
so, in fact, aside from this highly cherry-picked stat I'm going to throw at you, I think it'd be really, really interesting to talk about how Annex Cloud is deploying AI and how you're seeing it used to its best extent. But here, first, the high-level stat. 72% of US marketers have increased their investment in AI in 2024, and 78% have already experienced a rise in customer engagement after implementing AI-powered personalization.
Wow.
It's a big number, 78%. Kind of
Yeah.
justifies the expense and the fear and, all the other kind of logistical, operational stuff you got to consider. That's a big deal.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I guess I look at AI, some of the things I've been seeing, and maybe I'll be going down a rabbit hole here a little bit, but a lot of what I see now in this age too is back when .com really became something. I don't know if you remember, but J. Crew actually changed their name from J. Crew to jcrew.com because everybody was going to shop on the web and they weren't going to go into brick and mortar stores anymore. And so now here we are with AI and everybody's like, well, they're AI. And I think AI is certainly extraordinarily important and we will be using it, but I think it's going to be something that's just day to day in our everyday lives that we're just we all as organizations we all need to adopt it and make sure that it's part of what we do. Is it going to necessarily always stand out as to exactly what it is that AI is doing this thing for us, AI is doing this thing for us, AI is doing this thing for us? It's just going to be the way that we work. AI is just supporting all of these different things that we do, and
Right.
I don't think it's going to be as I guess blatant and specific as we're seeing it today. But I guess all that said, again, kind of jaded approach, I guess. I think you've got to do it in a smart way. So where does it really make sense to use it? I've seen some technologies out there that are saying when somebody hits my website, you're going to have AI to tell you exactly what that person's going to do and their likelihood to make a purchase, their likelihood to make a referral. It's like they just hit your site. How can that possibly be? Perhaps, but you need enough data to make it
Right.
really correct and make it relevant. So I fear that there's a lot going on right now in a test and learn. And what are we going to really look at? Like, how are we going to you utilize it in really smart ways? So for us, we're looking at it from fraud prevention. So how can we watch those behaviors and really know what could be happening to help from that perspective? I think in some aspects of analytics and such, it works well when you have enough of the data components. Certainly, we're crawling before we run. But our friends at Emarsys are doing a lot from that perspective, and they have a lot of data and the way they're watching customer behavior when they're sending out communications and being able to be smarter with it, I think makes great sense. Again, carefully how we're testing and learning of it all.
I mean, it does seem to me a little bit like, it is the idea of AI is moving out of the shiny object phase to it's the cool thing that nobody really understands, everybody wants and has to talk about, to kind of like what you're saying, like, let's figure out what its real utility is here and move it off of the pedestal as some really cool concept. And maybe we can actually use this to move the ball forward. And I've talked to a handful of people that feel the same way. But there is a bit of a wrestle, I think. People who are looking at AI in more utilitarian ways have to convince whoever it is, and it might be somebody in the C-suite that's just enamored with the whole thing, or think it's a load of BS, and we'll wait and see what happens with this idea. But I mean, there is true utility out there now for people who are doing any kind of customer engagement work, for sure.
Yeah.
But there's still a giant, spotlight, shiny object. Ooh, I gotta have it. And look, I can prove that out every time we publish almost anything with AI as the theme. We get a lift. I mean, it's
Yep.
crazy. Try it
Yeah.
yourselves. You'll see. It's
Yeah.
like at
Yeah.
some point that has to wear off because, yes, we try and publish useful stuff, but we're not publishing junk. But that theme has a lot of pull right now.
Yeah. No, and I think everybody, I mean, the good news about it, I think, is everybody's very curious. And everybody's giving it a shot. And I know our team, we're small, we're lean, and it is amazing what more we can get done because of AI and how we're using it and how we're using it to do research and how we're using it to help educate our team on like I'm thinking the sales team about how what can we learn more quickly, being able to feed it question feed you AI the different bots like about different, I don't know, books that are out there and help summarize those for us. Now put a lesson plan together for that we can learn and teach from. I mean, you could do that so quickly when
Right.
something like that you may not have even been able to do because it would have taken you a few weeks, and who has time in your schedule to be able to do that. But being able to lean into it, we're so much more efficient in so many different ways.
No, so let's take this down to street level. How often do you, in your daily life, use ChatGPT or one of the others versus in place of what you might have been using Google for or one of the search engines?
Uh, no, well, now Google's trying,
Right.
as is Microsoft. So you don't have to necessarily go as far away in order to get served up some kind of AI. I would say I don't do as much writing. I end up in a lot of more. I spend my day on the like this in conversations. So I would say I'm probably every couple of days. But I know people on my team, they're in there every day
Right.
for multiple hours, utilizing it just to get more done.
Right.
How about
Little side,
you?
a lot more, but not because it's replaced, uh, whatever I was going to be Googling. But like you said, it's made my production work a lot more efficient, like way more
Mm.
efficient,
Yeah.
exponentially. Um, I I guess through our corporate Google plan, I now have access to whatever it is that they're calling their version. And a couple of days prior, I was working on something and I had asked ChatGPT to design a digital looking carrot. Just, and it designed something that looked like a carrot shaped robot with all kinds of lights and dials and stuff on it. It was really bizarre looking. And I thought, when Google offered me, like, hey, try it out on Google, I gave the exact same instruction. In fact, I copied and pasted. And what I got was it looked like a line drawing from a dot matrix printer from like 1980 something. Like that was it. That was it. And so
They're not there yet.
they're not there yet. Yeah. Still working
Not
out
even
some kinks on
close.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But I imagine you too, like where we are as well is definitely as an organization, how are we using, how are we like fixing up our website and our content to be more readily picked up in those areas? Because why would somebody want to go, let's say, search for a loyalty platform on Google if they can go into ChatGPT or somebody more, somebody that's got current data, but what are the top loyalty platforms? What are their biggest feature sets? Which one, what are their different price points? I mean, they could just feed it so much information that all the stuff that would have taken them 3 or 4 weeks or months to research can now just be spit out in seconds.
Right there. Yeah.
Um, it's so different. Yeah.
Pretty remarkable. Have you have you found the thresholds of efficiency yet for any of your ChatGPT or AI work? I'm throwing that out as a bit of a softball because I have, but
Mm, okay.
no, you go first. You're more
I
interested.
can't make a statement that that definitive.
Okay. Um, so I was working on a large project, and I thought, like, we did this a couple years ago. We analyzed the top 50 Fortune, the top Fortune 50 companies. We went through their 10 Qs, 10 Ks, and annual reports, and we were looking for references to customer centricity or customer experience or customer engagement or customer loyalty, anything that would indicate in their investor materials that they were real about pursuing customer engagement. Is it there? It's not very scientific, but the idea was, look, if you're going to put it in your investor materials, it's at least important enough to make that kind of
Yeah,
spin.
yeah.
So ended up being really, really interesting, but also like really costly to do. You had a couple of researchers, a couple of writers on the project for what ended up being kind of just interestingly anecdotal stuff. But I thought, well, this is amazing use case for ChatGPT. So I basically framed that whole project up and fed into ChatGPT, and it came back. This is really interesting. It came back and said, "Yes, this is how you should do it." And I said, "No, I want you to do it. This is your job. You please do that." Okay, got it. Let me get to work, and I'll get right back to you. I thought, this is amazing. This is so amazing. And like a day went by, and I was like, this hasn't returned anything yet. So I was like, hey, what's up? What's happening here? Sorry, it's just a lot of data to parse through. We're going through this stuff. I'll get back to you soon, maybe by the end of the day. Next day, nothing. Hey, bro, can you tell me what's happening here? And it said, well, it's a bigger job than we thought. We'll get right back to you. I think it was like 4 or 5 days later, I was like, I really need to know what's going on here. Like, this is becoming a bad employee. And it came back and it said, okay, we got it done. And it gave me a paragraph of maybe, I don't know, 40 or 50 words that said, here's how you do it. So basically, it was trying to shirk its duties back on me the whole time and just didn't have the backbone to do so. So I would have
Interesting.
reported that employee to HR.
Yeah, wow. Wow, that's interesting. I would wonder, there's so many people have different approaches and get different results. It's all in the prompts, is from what I best
Yeah.
I can gather. And stepping them into that, if you'd come out with it. But I love that exercise. It's certainly what we do when we go look for when we're prospecting. If they're not talking about customer centricity, if they're not talking about loyalty, if they're not talking about that importance, well, they're at the bottom of the list.
Right. Right.
Because convincing a management team that the customer needs to be the center of your world is a lot harder than you think it is.